Hey, we got to get into this because she's on the line. I mean, we could kill Voss some more after Michelle hangs up. But
there's always time for that.
So just to set this up, intern David, we got some of his handwriting. I think he did, application for the internship and wrote down some stuff. I don't remember.
He'd like write his, even when he's writing down his
Kosher
bit.
sports and stuff.
It's this scrawl, this chicken scratch kind of weird handwriting.
Speaking of the kosher sports,
very Zodiac killer.
Kenny was amazed at something. Did you understand what you were doing today with your kosher sports?
Yes, I did.
What was it?
What are you referring to? You're referring to the fact that it was a kosher sport and there are no Jewish references?
Yes.
Well, that was one thing.
That was one thing.
But there was something else.
There was something else that was a theme of the whole thing that Kenny's like, I can't believe it, but I don't think he picked up on it.
Every story had a certain
theme. A sexual thing, yeah, sexual intuition. That it was all like liking men and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked up on that.
Very good, very good, David.
I picked up on that. I did.
Oh, you got to get Natterman and do dueling Jews right next to each other. They're the same people.
But Natterman will have... I can't do his voice. I wish I could.
Who's Natterman?
He's got the greatest voice.
Natterman. Who's Natterman? I'm Natterman.
Well, do we tell him, David, what this...
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, he wrote a thing about...
It's my autobiography that I wrote.
It's nice.
About wanting to be an intern, and the writing creeped us out to a point we got a handwriting analysis. And she's going to tell us a few things. One handwriting analysis said, I don't want anything to do with this, after she read this and saw his handwriting.
Do you write cursive or only print, David?
Only print.
Why can't you write cursive?
Only thing in cursive is when I sign my name.
Why not cursive?
Why do you stop saying cursive?
Script. It's script.
Script, cursive, whatever.
My Candy Club Soda Candy.
You're writing cursive? Something about
either.
cursive. I think there was cursive.
I can't write in script.
Did you practice your cursive today?
Nope.
I don't like writing.
I write very sloppily.
Script.
But I can.
Because I can't write fast in script. I have to do, like, that capital I is so weird.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I don't like that at all.
It flows together. I write much faster in cursive.
Nope.
Do you?
Hey, can you say tabernacles?
Tabernacles.
When did you write this? In second grade?
Tabernacles.
Now, we have this woman waiting for us. We have
yeah, she's on the line.
We're having your handwriting analyzed.
Well, let's get her on.
Oh, all right, David.
Hey, David. Wow, he's being pushy now.
Very assertive.
Chill, you.
Hi,
JJ.
Michelle.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Hello.
Hi, I have your handwriting, David.
That's me, I'm
we
David.
want to know a little bit about you quickly first, Michelle. What kind of...
Well, let's start by... What's your last name? Because none of us could say it.
It says
My
Dresbold.
last name is Dresbold, D-R-E-S-B-O-L-D, like the girls dress in
horrible last
Dresbold. Why don't you dress bold? So it's Michelle Dresbold. And what are your credentials?
Well, I'm a handwriting expert. I also go to court. I have training with U.S. Secret Service.
Ooh, wow. Kick some ass then too, right?
I do all kinds of criminal type cases where if there's a handwritten note at a crime scene, it's my job to go there and try to help law enforcement figure out who it is.
So, like, what was your best case or whatever? Like a case where you brag about?
One of my cases that I guess I brag about was a young college student who put a building on fire because he had a crush on a girl on the first floor.
Yeah.
Wrote a note to her parents, and what he was really trying to do was scare the girl in the building to come back to him. So, unfortunately, he did kill someone in the fire, and I linked the letter he wrote to his parents saying he put the fire on, and it was anonymous to him, and he's now in prison for life.
How did you link it? Was it personality stuff or other handwriting samples?
This was really other handwriting samples. He had written handwriting from different handwriting samples to friends. They gave the handwriting samples to the police, and there was this note basically to his parents that was anonymous but said, too bad that fire had to kill that kid. It was meant for your daughter.
Oh,
but it was
that's
anonymous. And anyhow, I linked that, the handwriting, plus other things, from the letters he had written to friends to the letter from the parents, and that was the connection to this fire, and that was used in his trial.
So do you ever work with profilers and stuff like
I
the
do.
FBI?
In fact, I am a very good profiler. I'll work as a profiler, and I'll work with, let's say, companies that are trying to hire people. Who should they hire? Or let's say someone's dating somebody. should they date this person? Is this person really crazy? Are they wacky? So I work with all kinds of people.
What can you tell? Obviously, there's certain things that crazier people do, like do they drop their Y's a certain way? What are you looking for when you're analyzing someone's personality?
Well, like I talk about this in my book, which is Sex, Lies, and Handwriting.
Nice plug. Nice plug.
That sex thing sells.
But in the book, I talk about there are certain features that will show up over and over and over again in certain types of personalities. For example, let's just say somebody takes their eye dots or their periods and they take them and they make them real big and thick and grind them into the page. It means that they're really angry and have a lot of inner resentment. Or if you see somebody's handwriting and on the first part of their letters, there's like a little check mark. You can only make angles when you're angry. So somebody who has a lot of little check marks that don't belong all throughout their handwriting, they have a lot of anger and they can like go off if you like push them just a little bit too much.
I'm not sure what you mean by check marks.
Nor do I.
Like a little
Okay,
angle.
Let's just say you make let's just say a letter like, let's find a good one, like an N.
Okay.
When you start the N, instead of just making your hand go down, the very start is a teeny little check mark. It's not big. It's just a teeny check mark.
It's like almost like your hand twitched when you were putting
You're
the
right,
pencil
exactly.
to paper.
Like, when you're relaxed, hand makes curves. When you're like if you get real angry, you can only make angles. So somebody who's very angry will have these teeny little angular marks all over the place. That's just one example. There's all different types of examples, and like obviously, like different types of people have different personalities. And for let's say somebody's handwriting goes way to the right, that means they're just so emotional that they can if they will not think correctly, and they'll just go with their emotions. Or if their handwriting's way to the left, it means that they'll talk to you, but you won't know anything that they're saying. They'll keep everything in their head. So every little thing in handwriting shows what's going on in your brain.
I've been very curious as to very tiny writing. People that write very small. What is that?
Can I guess before you give an answer?
Go guess.
I'm going to guess. It has something to do with compartmentalizing. It's an OCD thing. It has something to do with like the same type of people who compartmentalize everything in their life.
I say
sort of.
I say low self-esteem.
I mean, someone who writes really small, and I tell people this in my lectures, take your name and write it smaller, and so small you can barely see it. There are people who are super focused. If it gets too small, they're retreating from they're like retreating from society.
Ah, that's interesting. Because we know a couple of people that write very small, and retreating from society would be something because society probably,
didn't approve of their
any extreme, way too big,
where they put
or way
their
too small.
And way too big would be
an
what?
egotist, somebody who has to get all the attention in the world. Like, hi, look at me. They'll write you.
Fuck, we should all wrote something before she did this.
Well,
and that would have been hilarious.
But
to see who had the biggest print.
we could do this by just taking something we've written already.
Right, or you could write something right
Except
now.
Voss, he hasn't written anything in years. Sorry, Rich.
That's good. I like that one.
So wait, you read David's thing.
David?
I did read David's handwriting.
Now, obviously, it's all in. He doesn't write in cursive.
A lot of people don't write in cursive, especially men. In fact, a pretty high percentage of men never write cursive.
Is it
good?
Is it weird? Like this is weird. Somebody told me that I make like the letter I make huge. Like when I'm writing I, and somebody says because my penis is large.
I think that's the reason.
All right, goes right along with you, Jimmy. Michelle and David's laugh. Oh, he laughs with gusto.
That was hilarious, though.
Michelle, what does it mean when you pepper your writing with the N-word? You just kind of pepper it in there.
It means you have some not so nice tendencies.
All right, let's get into what
I've been told.
David wrote my autobiography. You got a copy of it a while ago.
Right, that's true.
The first paragraph, my name is David. I was born in 1982. I first lived in a town called Aberdeen, which is in New Jersey. I lived there for almost 10 years.
Now, obviously, that's...
We're not going to read this whole thing, but I'm just like, whatever.
Well, that's obviously worded like a well-written adult.
Yeah.
Well,
This is my book
When I
report.
look at handwriting, I don't look at what somebody writes,
Oh.
what the words are. I look at the handwriting. And, in fact, often I'll just take a handwritten page and turn it upside down, and I will give you an analysis because it's not from what the person says, but from the actual way they write.
Ah.
Let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. What's
David.
What's David all about?
What do you got on him?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I found about David from his handwriting. David is sort of like innocent. He has like and when he wrote this, it's sort of like a childlike or very youthful type of handwriting, almost like he said he's born in 1982, so it's actually a younger handwriting than that. It's a very like a late bloomers type of handwriting. He also he takes his periods and he does make them pretty big.
Yeah.
That means the way he does it, David can be obsessive. So when he thinks about something, he thinks about it over and over and over and over again in his head. And,
That's actually true.
Yes.
And let's say, David, if you were mad at somebody in third grade and you saw them on the street, you still would not like them. It's like, oh, I didn't like him in third grade and I still don't like him.
That's pretty normal, though.
If you like someone, you're real nice to them, and if you don't like them, you'll stay that way. I did notice something in your handwriting, David, that I thought was interesting. You sometimes reverse letters, like your D's turn into B's. And what that means is probably growing up, you had a little bit of a learning disability, which might have made school a little hard for you. And a lot of people are really bright. They will reverse letters like you do.
I did that all the time when I was in first and second grade.
Okay, well, it meant that you had a little bit, maybe even a visual learning disability. And so probably high school was maybe difficult for you. And it could be that you're very, very bright, but reading and memorizing what you read is hard for you.
And that would make him not bright.
This woman, she's got it not nailed down to the right. She got it.
I would do that a lot. My lowercase B's and D's, I would screw it up if I was writing something real quickly. I would screw it up and be like, oh, that's, of course that's a D. It goes the other way.
Okay, that really means a lot of people have that, and you can be very, very bright and do that.
Yeah, I am. I'm very bright.
It's a learning disability, and a lot of people who do that have to take other paths in life rather than what we quote the normal path.
Oh.
The normal path.
Opie, stop laughing, you bick.
Or something like that. But
what are you saying? I'm not normal.
No,
Shut up.
It's better. In a way, you can be quite bright. And in fact, a lot of really, including Einstein, Arnold Schwarzenegger, a lot of people,
Schwarzenegger and Einstein. I've never heard them put in the same category.
They both reverse their letters.
I got Blair's cousin Jerry from The Facts of Life.
But that can mean you're bright. Memorizing written words are hard. So you wind up usually doing something more creative and in your own vein, and that's where you excel in life. David can excel.
Can people
Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared.
Oh, no, they're not.
Fucking David. Crack up, young David.
Can people fake hand they might know it'll be analyzed and fake it so it can't be analyzed?
Wow, Rich is paranoid.
Not really. I mean, you can fake it, meaning somebody can write in all capital letters trying to block print so you can't read them. But even let me tell you, if you just said, Michelle, I'm going to write with, let's say you're right-handed, I'm going to write with my left hand to disguise it. Every trait that came out with your right hand will come out in your left hand. And in fact, they sometimes do an experiment with people and they make them write with their foot, and I can still analyze the personality.
Really?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
I got 20 jokes right there.
I know what else you can tell.
Yeah. Oh, God, it's such a good joke. And it's topical.
What else do you want to know about David? Anything?
Whatever you got on him.
Yeah, is there the thing with the period being very... Now, you said earlier that was kind of an anger thing.
It is a little bit of an anger. It can be obsession. In his case, it's more like obsession because it's big, but it's not huge. Mm-hmm. but it does mean that he can be inwardly angry and have hard time expressing it outwardly.
And what does it mean? Like, I see some of these letters on the page that he went over the letter twice, and they're darker than the other ones. Like, there's one where he spells school, and the L in school is like he went over it a couple of times. It's darker than the rest of the word. Bay, the Y, the H in 3. Like, there's quite a few of those.
Okay, when you go over letters over and over again, it's an obsessive quality because you're not satisfied with it just the way it is. You have to go over and over. So it's someone who can get quite obsessive, and when he's into something, it's hard for him to move on.
Yeah.
So it's a sign of obsession. So that's just something David has to work on. A little bit of thoughts get in his head, and they're hard to get them out of it.
What do you consider when someone writes the word Aberdeen and they begin with a capital A, as they should, and the capital A is smaller than the 3 E's in the sentence, which take up the entire line?
Well, that is true. Technically, that isn't really the way it should be.
Of course not.
That is also sort of like, David, did you have a little bit of a visual problem growing up?
Sure.
Yeah, so
Yes,
that's really
sure.
with David's handwriting. It's just a little bit, he has a little harder time visually.
Did you, David?
Yes, I did.
What was your problem?
It's a lot of disabilities, like learning disabilities and stuff.
My glasses.
Yeah, as you can see.
David, that's where his handwriting, sometimes when you see things like this, like if I had seen this, and I obviously don't know David, but I would say, David, you have a little bit of a learning disability.
Yeah, that's correct.
You're really smart, and your visual sense is a little hard. It's a little harder for you, so you need a little bit of different learning skills. And that's why his letters, actually, most people's words, the first letter will be big, and then it will get smaller.
That's weird,
because the other way, and that's probably because he's had a visual perception problem.
Are handwriting analysts, amongst other profilers, like looked down at, kind of like chiropractors are to doctors? I mean, do you get the respect that, like the forensic people get, and the ones that are really solving the crimes?
Well, I think maybe some people are looked down on. Example, I don't think I am, and I think I actually think that it's a pretty well-respected field, though you have people who might be a little bit like don't know much and try to pretend they know everything.
Think it's hokum.
Yeah.
There can be a little bit of that with people, but I'll tell you what, the more you know about it, it's just a fascinating field, and I find that, like, I work a lot with different lines, and they love it, and I have, I'll give you an example. When I first walked I'm from Pittsburgh, and when I first walked into the Detective Bureau, they rolled their eyes like, oh, who's this wacky girl? But after they saw what I could do, after a while, I had a lecture for the detectives, and they were sitting out the hall. That's how the reputation of how accurate a handwriting profile can be. And after people start to find out how accurate it is, it's amazing. You'll just get people from all over the world coming, trying to say, help me to figure this thing out.
Well, I'm pretty impressed with her assessment of David, because that really does kind of hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, you pretty much got it right.
Thank you,
Hit the Jew on the head.
Michelle, from his handwriting, has he killed small animals?
Oh, I hope not. No, he hasn't, but he does worry a lot.
Worry a lot.
He's a worry wart.
What about his penis size?
Oh, it's fine.
You can tell from the handwriting?
Can you tell from the handwriting?
Well, I wouldn't know.
She hinted at that.
Well, there are things you can tell about, like, you can tell a lot about someone's sexuality through their handwriting.
All right, that's what we're getting at with David.
Okay.
What can you tell?
There we go.
We're looking at a version, aren't we?
Well, sort of. I mean...
Well, how can you tell about the sexuality?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll give you, like, an example.
Like if the beginning of one word is rammed into the end of the other word. Will that tell you something?
There's something in it. In David, since he prints, it's a little harder to tell, but if somebody writes your lower loop, like your G loop, your Y loop, bottom of the F, anything that has a lower loop represents anything that goes on from your belly button down. It can be someone very physical or someone or sexual. So the way somebody makes their lower loops shows what they're like sexually and how much emphasis they put into their sexual
Now we
life.
know why Anthony goes through so much paper.
Maybe. What are your lower loops like? And I'll tell you what like let's say someone.
Poor Anthony. He can only get 4 lines per page.
It's okay. My handwriting's worse.
Oh wait, in cursive you mean, right?
Well, it can be cursive, or if you print, you still, unless you print in all caps, you will have, let's say, a lower loop of a G.
My lower loops are fatter, bigger.
Okay, fat lower loops mean that you are sexual. You fantasize a lot.
About what?
You like to be active. You get bored very easily.
I like to what?
You get bored easily.
Cool.
Bored.
If I wrote you a letter, could you tell if I ever blew anybody for coke from a letter?
Yes, especially if you titled it, I blow people for coke.
Hey, Michelle, what about people that write in all caps? I didn't catch that one.
Okay, if somebody writes in all capital letters, well, first of all, one of the reasons men print and women more likely cursive is connected. So emotionally, a lot of women like to connect. The more you print emotionally, a little bit more you separate. Somebody who prints in all capitals.
I write, stop yelling, LOL.
Yeah, they don't want you to know anything about them. So a
talking.
person, it will almost always be a man, and he'll print in all capitals. And it means that person doesn't want you to know much about what's going on inside their head.
So did you read the Ramsey note, the John Bonet Ramsey note? I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah, in fact, I have a little chapter on that in my book.
What do you think of it? I mean, obviously, I think the family has been cleared. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that note?
Well, what I
all right, that's about all we have time for Michelle.
That note is a very bizarre note, and it's one big piece of evidence in that case. One piece of evidence you definitely can link to the murder.
Who do you think wrote it, though? Was it a family member or no?
I really won't tell you, but I do compare it to a family member in the book, and I show you the comparisons to one of the family members, and I leave it up to the reader to figure out what they really think from looking at the comparison. I really think it would be when you have to think about that note that somebody wrote it in the house, because the note was written in that house. It wasn't brought to that house. It was written there. Now, if you've ever tried to write a note, a 3-page note, and try to disguise your handwriting and see how long that takes. So if it was an intruder, and I'm not giving any opinion on this right now, but if it was an intruder, you would have to have somebody who would have had to sit in that house for hours writing a note. And I don't think you can take that out of the equation of what might have happened here. But there's no answer. Really, obviously, but I think that note is a huge piece of evidence in this case.
What would you consider an attribute of handwriting for somebody that is dangerous?
You mean something that someone very dangerous?
Yeah. Is it that they put little devil horns all over the place?
You know what? You're not so far off, because there is something called a devil's fork. And I write about that also in about Plug the Negro, my book against sex lies and handwriting. I talk about something called a devil's fork. And you will see it not in very many people's handwriting, but you see it in Ted Bundy's handwriting. Many serial killers' handwriting. It looks on the bottom of a letter. It can show up different places, and it looks just like a devil's fork. And I actually just had a case recently with somebody who was accused of murder, and right in her handwriting is the devil's fork. And I'm like, oh my God, and I was busy showing it to people. It's something you do not see often. I'll tell you a story about the devil's fork if you like.
Wait, hold on. Before you do that, can you tell me what it looks like? Because
it looks like, you have a straight line, and then like at the bottom, there would be a curve at the bottom on where the straight line is, so it looks exactly like what a devil's pitchfork would look like, and you will find it somewhere in the handwriting.
That sounds like something that's like you'd have to do as a calculated thing, and wouldn't just be an errant pen stroke or something.
The interesting thing is that it is not calculated. It shows up, and the person has no idea they put it in there.
Is it almost like, picture a letter Y, a capital Y, a horseshoe upside down with a line under it? Would you consider that a devil's fork?
Yes.
Okay.
But usually it will be like, say, do a Y, and the bottom straight part, which would normally be the loop, but it goes down, and then you get this curved, like a sad face at the bottom of the straight Y hanging down. So it looks like a sad face on the bottom of what would normally be the loop of the Y, but the Y doesn't loop. It just goes straight down, and then at the bottom is a sad face intersecting.
Is it in your book?
Yeah, it's in the book.
I can see how that could happen.
I can't even tell you what page, but it's
What page? Because I want to see it.
When they talk about certain serial killers, they will have this, and it looks just like what you would if you were drawing a picture of a devil and he was holding a pitchfork, what the pitchfork would look like.
Michelle,
I'm
sorry.
No, they do it.
What? I'm sorry. I'm looking at Aleister Crowley's signature too. What page is the Devil's Pitchfork on? Because I have your book here.
Okay, what page, Ellen? I don't have one. Oh, here's the book. Let's see where we have a devil. I know it's in the chapter about Ted Bundy, so and which is called.
What could you tell by Aleister Crowley's handwriting? That he was a silly goose?
Aleister Crowley, actually, is in the chapter called, is that a phallic symbol, or are you just happy to see, in your handwriting, or are you just happy to see me?
No.
You will find people, and they will actually put phallic symbols or male parts in their handwriting, and that is somebody who has to get their kick sexually from something perverse, or a
Really?
little different than normal. So
God, that explains a lot. Because after I'll like put the letter Y dripping from the bottom, I'll put little things of the Y's. Boo. Bailed out. Michelle. Sorry, I felt a bomb coming on.
If you look at that, like phallic symbols, example, Michael Jackson has it in his handwriting.
When he writes the word child.
Well, a lot of times it happens in, like a phallic symbol. I once saw it in one of my friends, a female's handwriting, and I looked at her handwriting, and I had seen her handwriting many times, and I'll make up a fake name for her. I said, Carol, look, you have a phallic symbol. Why is that in your handwriting? She goes, oh, my, I had sex for the first time in 9 years yesterday, and it showed up right in her handwriting.
Wow.
So if somebody's thinking about sex a lot or obsessed or something is a little different, it will show up sometimes when it's never showed up before.
All right, so I'm trying to find an example. You were telling a story
I'm
about...
looking for that page as we're talking. But
Devil's
let me
Fork.
see.
Yeah, the Devil's Fork, because...
I found one. Well, there is a Devil's Fork on page 86, but I'm trying to find you. I have a better Devil's Fork, and I'm looking at private eye. I know where it is, but I can't. Oh, it's got to be before that.
Oh, I see.
It's
right.
Oh, unless it's after that. We can talk as I'm looking for the Devil's.
All right. Hey, I want to ask you about.
I have the Devil's Fork. Here it is.
Yeah, what page?
It's in the chapter Bad to the Bone, page 151. At the very bottom is the word living, and it's written by Ted Bundy. Do you see the word on 151?
Yes.
To the very bottom, the
Yes.
word living, on the L.
Oh, right, that little three-pronger thing
Jesus
there.
Christ, how the
That's
fuck does he
Devil's-
do that without knowing?
What?
He doesn't know he's doing that?
Doesn't know he's doing
Come
it.
on.
It sometimes comes from other letters or words that connect weirdly.
Creepy.
This is something he doesn't know he's doing. He doesn't know it's showing up. You have that also, I think, in the Green Valley Killer, and the BTK Killer has it also. They do not know
Wow,
they're
that's so
doing
weird.
it. It's just because when you write, what you're really doing is putting brain prints from your head onto the page. In fact, Ted Bundy, when they interviewed him, they said. He said, well, he never admitted to the killing, but he did say, well, I think there was a devil inside of me, and maybe the devil did some bad things. And that the person who does this will never admit that they did it, because they actually feel that this devil inside them might have done something, but they didn't. And it will show up. It only, in my personal life, it only showed up one time. A woman who wrote me said she was dating a man and should she continue dating him. And I looked at his handwriting, and he had the Devil's Fork in it. And I said, do not run away, get out of
Wow.
Don't even go near him. And she broke up with him, and it turns out he had a very long criminal history that she didn't know about.
Holy. Wow.
Jesus Christ.
So,
What do you know about Erock's fork? That's gotta be real full, a lot of letters piled on top of each other.
Titanium fork.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, never mind.
It's an inside thing. Which
Yeah.
is making
Okay,
people laugh.
maybe
Michelle, I got to tell you, we got
understand you.
we got your book ahead of time, and I wasn't going to read this, but now looks
Oh, you
great.
have to
Now,
read it.
well,
Yeah,
no,
I'm going to read it.
Oh, shut
you
up,
can,
David.
David.
I'm giving you I'm giving you a compliment. I mean, now I really want to read this.
This looks
'cause
great.
Just seeing all these different forms of writing in here from serial killers and such. It's wow, it looks really interesting. Sex, lies, and handwriting. On your website, you talk about Obama and McCain, don't you, and their handwriting?
I have all the presidential candidates and the other people who were running. You know, I have all the people who were running for this election.
All right. First of all, are you a Democrat or a Republican?
Well, I won't tell you, but I can tell you stuff about the different candidates that can be quite interesting. I can tell you. Do you want to hear something about John Edwards?
Yes. Sure.
I mean, okay, this might give you a clue. When I first I did everybody's handwriting about a year or so ago when they were first running. And actually, at that time, I was pretty much an Edwards supporter, and I saw his handwriting. And do you remember I told you that if it goes to the right, you think emotionally. If it goes too much to the right, you're too emotional. And I talk about in the book something where if your letter D falls over way to the right, it means that you've forgotten logic and you go with your pure emotions. And when I did John Edwards' handwriting, his handwriting, first he has the very long lower loops, which means he enjoys sex. And but the rest of his handwriting goes so far to the right, but his D completely leans over to the right, which means that he thinks emotionally, leaves all he can forget about logic completely. And when I did his sample, I said to my editor, I said, why does John Edwards' handwriting go this way? I can't understand it. I like him so much. Why is this happening? Why is this going on? And of course, you know, about 8 months later, it came out that he had that affair. But,
And he goes to the hotel
right
in the middle of this. That was so stupid to go there.
You know, when you think about it, I mean, he's a pretty smart guy. I mean, very smart man. But emotionally, I mean, that's what that D shows. When it goes over all the way to the right, you have forgotten logic completely. And I talk about that in my book with some certain people. And so after that, I thought, well, I can't vote for him. Something's going on in his life. And right, you know, to jeopardize your whole career for a little fling, that's not, you know, that's a little bit off.
I'm just going to type everything from now on.
Kidding.
That way no one can...
You know, I'm taking something called statement analysis now, so even when somebody types, I can tell from the words what they're really saying underneath.
Oh, well, I should hope so. That's what I hope when someone reads it, they can tell by the words what I'm trying to say.
What you're saying is
it's called
you're
writing.
taking a course in reading.
It's called statement analysis, and what that means is that every single thing you say, it's the way you word things. Now, I'm not a big expert yet on that, but I am studying it. And you know, it's hard if you're just listening. But if somebody writes something down, you can tell from how they worded something, example, where they're lying.
Michelle, we're experts as well.
Okay.
You are a Democrat who loved John Edwards.
Well, not anymore, but I did like him. I have to say that.
You gave that
Obama's
away pretty easily.
handwriting?
Hey, Obama and McCain, what do you got on those two? Because now, obviously...
Obama, and I did this again like a year or so ago, it's just in his signature, in the O, he makes a sign that's called a phi sign, P-H-I. It's a Greek sign that means the perfect ratio, and that everything should be in this perfect ratio. And I saw that, and I wrote about it on my website. And so I really, when people called me and said, oh, on the Democratic Convention, he was going to make the background a Greek form to make it look Greek. I said, oh, well, that goes with his signature.
What does the phi sign look like?
A phi sign looks like a 0 with a line slashed through it.
It's all right. We got a picture of E-Rock with a line through him.
Yeah, I mean, a 0 with a line, and it's a phi sign. When you see symbols in people's handwriting, sometimes you don't even know what they mean, and you have to, like, go through your, like, journal or whatever. But people will put symbols in their handwriting that have some meaning personally to them.
But what does that mean with Obama?
I think it means that his basic core belief system is that everything should be in a certain proportion and a ratio. I think
Socialism!
he probably studied Greek when he was in college.
speak Greek?
You know, I bet he had an interest in it, and something about that Greek philosophy.
Then why is it a circle with a line through it?
Well, that's how they.
Should
That's
just be
how
a
they
circle.
make a pi sign.
The arrow pointing towards. Do you speak Greek?
A little Greek, I speak. Yasu dikanis. That means hello, how are you?
It's very interesting. I love the devil's pitchfork.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the devil. Yeah, it's amazing.
And the McCain thing. I mean, we got to like.
John McCain, his handwriting. One thing about it, it is very scrunched up. And a lot of times,
like him.
when somebody has an illness. Now, I have his handwriting. The handwriting I have was from 4 years ago, and it's very scrunched. When people are physically ill, you can see it in their handwriting. At the time when he wrote this, he was ill or impending illness, and I think he had a lot of problems in the last 4 years, and you could see that right in his handwriting. Another interesting thing about McCain. As you think McCain is a big family name, but he writes his first name John, very large, and his last name small. And what that means, if you write your last name small and your first name large, it means I want to make it as John. I do not want to have to, I'm going to not rely on being the McCain name. I want to make it on my own.
What does it mean, though, when they're ill? They're scrunched together? Like the letters are...
Somebody has illness. There will be different signs depending on what illness they have. You can tell a tremendous amount about a person's health when you look at their handwriting.
Yeah, I got a jumble of scribble here, but apparently it's Robert Reed's autograph.
Okay, well, I don't know about that.
Well, of course not.
I mean, it's all scrunched together.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's all scrunched.
Yes, extremely. It's so scrunched together, it's just a line.
And he's got a lot of zeros with the slash through it.
on handwriting and illness and how it's related.
Yeah.
And I wrote
day.
something on my website about how you can predict it's a long story, but I'll make it short for you. How somebody had a tumor and how you saw it in his handwriting. And one of my
Pudding.
readers read that, and she saw her husband's handwriting, and she said to him, "Oh, I don't want to scare you, but I think you have a tumor on your kidney." And he got an MRI, and he did have it.
Well, just by the handwriting?
He was tinkle on the paper.
Actually, he's a physician, and he's become very good friends of mine, and I went and we visited each other. They live in Texas, and we're watching his handwriting, because as this thing would disappear in his handwriting, we're watching to monitor his health.
Is it true that Olivia Newton-John's W's look like U's?
I don't know.
Oh my God, is that
that one I don't know.
Hey, what does it mean? What does it mean if you sign stuff with just if you just sign your last name? You'll hear laughter in the background for the next 10 minutes. By the way, I just want to acknowledge that. But if you just sign stuff just using your last name, what does that indicate?
And if you don't put your first name at all, most people put at least their initials. If you only do your last name, it means something like you're sort of taking ways of your personal thing. You're not trying to like really expose yourself. You're just like sort of putting up an image.
Wow.
So that's what that shows.
Okay, and just for my personal interest, did you study Kurt Cobain's suicide letter?
I did have it, and I have looked at it. In fact, I haven't looked at it for quite a while now, but I do remember it, and it was a little. Most things that will show up in suicide letters, a lot of times the person's handwriting will go way downhill, meaning that the slope of the handwriting goes.
Oh, yeah.
That means that they're feeling very, very depressed. And I would think, and his handwriting was very erratic, and it means very erratic thinking. So the one thing you want to look for if in somebody is if their handwriting starts to go way, way downhill. It means that they're like falling mentally downhill, or I think I remember he had that. Like I said, I haven't looked at it now for quite a while.
What if you have a droopy C?
A droopy C.
Yeah.
It means that you need a facelift. I don't know.
No, I was thinking droopy
I don't
C.
think it means that much.
And like my D always goes off to the left.
Your D goes to the left,
Yeah.
not to the right?
A little bit, like sometimes.
What's that mean?
So
I don't know.
Your D actually slants more. That means that sometimes you're very emotional, except there are times where you quickly take back control.
Yeah. And what's the difference between a good and a bad N?
Well, there's no good or bad ends, but one thing you want to look in the end, like if you have a loop in your N, it means you worry too much.
Really?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I worry about my N's.
Right, well, don't worry so much.
All right. Thank you. I didn't know that. I'm glad you could solve those problems.
Some individual letters mean something how they're made, and others don't mean all that much. It's the general look of the writing also. But there are little things that every little thing you put on that page means something about you.
Wow. You know what? I find this a little odd. Whenever I'm writing on the front of an envelope, like an address, and not so much anymore, but I used to, if it wasn't lined paper, I would always kind of drop off to one side or something.
Oh, well, that's fine. Did it go, if it's not lined, do you mean that the handwriting went uphill or downhill, or what do you mean?
Yeah, it was like it would start out good, and then by the end of the address, like it would be dropping down, like going to a down sloping.
Like you're writing on a down angle.
Yeah, on a downhill.
Yeah,
I could never keep it straight on
You
unlined.
don't want your handwriting going down. I always tell people not to write on lined paper because lined paper means that you need to follow rules and regulations. Ideally, your handwriting should go uphill a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah, and that means you're a little more upbeat, positive. If your handwriting
I'm just
going
to turn the page a little bit.
There's something called handwriting therapy. When your handwriting goes downhill, it means you can see things in a negative light.
Yeah.
And
Tell me about it.
We
no
do this
shit.
exercise where we make you write uphill.
Mm-hmm.
And that will actually turn a negative mood into a much positive state.
But realistically, all I have to do is really turn the page clockwise a little bit, and I'm fine, right?
Back to normal.
Well, no. Realistically, all you would have to do is when you write, instead of letting your hand drop down, is actually go, I'm going to make it level, or I'm going to go up, and force it up. And actually, as you do that, you will feel better and happier. And they've done studies with really successful people. And the thing that's
Uncle Paul
in common with them is almost always their handwriting goes slightly up.
All right, Michelle.
Who's that?
Hold on, Michelle.
I heard a voice.
Yeah, hold on. Michelle, who's the writer of Sex, Lies, and Handwriting. We got a bunch of really good questions coming in. We got Stephanie in Atlanta. Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, Michelle. Hey, so what does it mean when a woman writes in all caps?
Okay.
I rarely ever.
Now, there's a few things to consider. Does she write in all caps because it's part of her profession? For example, is she an architect or an engineer?
No, she's a woman.
Exactly. That's why Mr. Brady did it.
We're talking about recipes, right?
Recipe.
If a woman writes in all caps, I always say to her, it does mean she's trying to avoid a little bit of things emotionally. And I say, think back of when you started, and you were probably going through something, a little emotional problem or trauma at that time. Think back of when you started to write in all capital letters. And that's probably an issue or a trauma that you need to work out in your life. So very few women do write in all caps. Does that make sense to you?
It does. It's very interesting, though.
No way.
I mean, do you write in all caps?
I do. All the time. I never write any other way but in all caps.
Now, do you, when you learned in school, did you write cursive and then somewhere in your life turn into all caps, or did you write in all caps ever since a kid?
No, I wrote in cursive. I can't even remember when.
Stephanie, can I ask you a question? Because I'm kind of learning about this. Do you have big, thick periods?
No, Anthony, I don't.
I'm just asking because I'm learning a lot about this.
But Stephanie, if I were you, think back of when you started, and if you were going through something in your life, but writing in all caps does mean that you will distance yourself a little bit emotionally and try to think, okay, better do it all logically because I can't get my emotions that involved in this. So think about that when you're when it started, what may have started.
All right, let's go to Kenny in Jersey. Kenny, you're on with Michelle.
Hey, Kenny.
Hi, I mix capital E's and lowercase E's.
You mean what do you mean? I mean, you have a capital E's, like if you write the word ever, it could be a small E, V, a big E, and an R. Is that what you're saying?
like Kenneth.
In your name. Really, if you mix capitals where they don't belong, it can mean you're a little bit unpredictable. Here and there, it doesn't mean that much. But ideally, if your letters that should be lowercase turn into capitals in an erratic way, it can mean that sometimes you do things that are a little unpredictable, even sometimes to yourself. So ideally, you don't want to do that where they don't belong, but a little bit here and there doesn't mean all that much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Kenneth.
Print the capital letters because he's unpredictable.
All right. I don't know who this person is. You're on with Michelle. The
Good evening.
Are you there, sir?
I'm here.
Oh,
Madam.
Madam, what's up?
Hi.
Hello?
Dan?
Hello.
Hi.
Dan.
Hello?
Yeah,
Hi,
you.
Dan, you're up.
Go. You're up.
Oh, hey. I'm sorry. I was wondering, my big P, the top of it it's a lot larger than the rest of it, like the long skinny part. I was wondering what that meant.
Oh, that's a very good question.
The very top part of the letter P is very rounded and big, and then you just have a little teeny line.
Yeah, only on my big P, though.
Okay,
When
well,
it's just,
Oh, no.
let's see what we can say what that means. Well, it just means you have a big P.
Yeah.
It does mean sometimes you like to please others, and there's a big desire to please.
Yeah.
and sometimes when I write my V, the tip of it's real skinny and tighter than the top part of it. I was wondering, it's like a very big difference. It's almost like a sharp, wedge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over your head. Exactly.
That in itself doesn't mean that much.
All right. Thank
One
you.
Does it
little
mean
thing
anything
that
if every
does
time you
not
write a
have
V,
anything
there's scribble
real
marks
major
through it?
worry about.
I hope not.
All right, let's say hi to David in Washington. We're wrapping up with Michelle here,
Hi,
but
David.
David has something.
Hello. Yeah, okay. Seriously, my handwriting is super neat. It looks like the letters were typed practically.
Okay.
I make my A's the way they would appear, my lowercase A's like on a typewriter.
Ooh.
And
Okay.
sometimes I make my G's that way too with the little loopy deal. And when I'm handwriting, the paper, I turn it to where it's like I'm writing vertically.
Yeah, I've seen those weirdos in school.
Well, you know what that means? Your handwriting looks real perfect. Is that what you're telling me?
It is really
Braggart.
close.
Means
to
you're a
perfect.
braggart.
No, you know what that means? When people tell me, oh, look, this person there have real perfect, neat handwriting, isn't that great? When you write so it's so perfect that it's unnatural, it means that you can't relax, and you're so afraid to show who you really are that you need so desperately to keep everything perfect and in place because you don't want anyone really to see what's inside, and it's very hard to be spontaneous. Because if you're spontaneous, people might go, oh, look, you did something wrong. So you're keeping everything in extreme order so not to give anybody the impression that you have any flaws.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fear factor.
Yeah, but I write like really messy, and I can't relax. It's just the opposite. So,
Well, it may be different. You may not put up like a front that I'm perfect.
Right.
well, I
you certainly
can't.
don't.
No, he's garbage actually with a hat.
So that's different.
He
But
knows it,
somebody
he has
who
no problem
writes
with it.
so perfect. It means that they're trying so hard not to let anybody see any of their problems.
All right.
What if I write fine, but I have a messy colon?
Well, then you have to go to the doctor.
Hey, Michelle, I have a question. You didn't
Danny just threw away his paper.
you didn't write this alone. Who did you write this book with?
I wrote Sex, Lies, and Handwriting with someone named James Qualwasser, who's a very good editor and writer from...
Oh, okay. I thought James Qualwasser was a handwriting expert.
Yeah.
No, he's not a handwriting expert. He's an editor.
A ghostwriter. You didn't
and
write much.
ghostwriter.
Hey, John in Jersey has a very good question for you,
Okay,
Michelle.
John.
Yes, John, you're up.
Yes, I'd like to wonder why my D's go into my A.
What's that, John?
He wants to know why.
They go in my A.
Wait, I'm sorry. If you could please repeat what you said, that might help.
Yeah.
Yes, my D's go into my A when I write.
Oh,
yeah, that's
the D's go to the right?
They go into the A's.
Go into his A's.
Yeah, if he has an A, the D goes right into it.
Okay, so your letters are intersecting with each other. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. At least the D's and the A's, yeah.
Yes.
Ideally, you don't want your letters intersecting like that. It's a little hard to know. Ideally, you want your letters separate. If it's your everyday letters other than signatures mean something a little different. But your letters intersecting mean that there are things that are getting kind of mixed up in your life. Ideally, you want to keep your letters not from intersecting and not from going overlapping like that.
Wait, what does it mean? I have a
like
question.
God said.
What does it mean if you're signing a J, right? What's it mean if you sign a J in cursive and the top of the J is really big and round, but the small part of the J, the lower part of the looping part of the J is very small and tight at the bottom?
Most people who write a very big J, a very rounded top part of the J, that usually shows responsibility.
And what is the lower part?
Of no lower loop, it means they're not too much into the sex part.
Responsible and no sex.
Right, responsibly.
What?
I know. Yes?
The people that mix cursive with print.
Cursive with print. If you do cursive with printing in a way that is efficient, it means you're exceptionally bright and creative. You'll find people who are musicians,
I do that all the time.
artists, speakers, who are creative and bright. They do this form of called print writing, where they actually combine printing and cursive, and you'll find that in very creative, bright people's handwriting.
I think I do that.
Oh, good! It's a very good sign.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
What about those dopey girls with the hearts over the eyes and stuff?
Yeah, what does that mean when bitches do that?
It means something different than if it's a boy who does it.
What does it mean?
Oh, what if a boy does it?
Usually people who do a little they're almost always teenagers.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's somebody obvious. It's like pretty obvious what it means. It's if it's a teenage girl, it means, hi, I feel romantic. Oh,
Can I go in your jacuzzi?
Yeah,
and it's got
kind of
got a heart over it.
Yeah. Somebody does that when they get older, though. It means it can be kind of immature or a little too romantic.
And that means I'm coming over to burn some clothes.
Yeah. All right.
I guess it all depends on the person doing it. That what you're trying to tell me? Your turn.
Well, it depends on their age, too.
Yeah.
How about they fall? Go ahead, you talk.
For somebody 15, and they're not appropriate for somebody older than that. Like,
right.
People sometimes do the circle eye dots, too. A lot of people do that.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, you actually was a great call. It was very where are you based out of, sweetie?
Where am I based out of? I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Cool. Well, it's been nice talking to you.
Yeah, when are you going to make it to the big time and get out of that hellhole?
Oh, I don't know. I'm trying. If everybody out there buys Sex, Lies, and Handwriting, I could get out of Pittsburgh.
Oh, that would rock, right?
That would rock. Where are you going to move to?
Oh, I don't know. If I had my choice to move anywhere in the world, I think I'd go to some Caribbean. I might go to an island right now and just snorkel every day and take some time off and just relax for a little bit.
All wrinkly.
Well,
Snorkel every day.
On.
Yeesh.
Well, all right. Thank you for the help.
I might go up to New York City.
All right. Well,
there you go.
You were very nice.
Well, thank you. It was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Sex, Lies, and Handwriting. I got to say, at first, like Opie said, I saw this book and it didn't hold much interest. But now after talking to you, I really do want to read this.
Yeah,
oh, great. Yeah, you know what? I tried to do it in a really fun way, so it's not real technical, but you do learn a lot. And I just wanted it to be a really fun book. So I think you'd enjoy Sex, Lies, and Handwriting, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Book held up better than that bro book did, that's for sure.
No kidding.
Yeah, thank you. There she goes.
And I have a big P in me,
Michelle Dresbold.
David's been chiming in a lot. I love it.
Yeah.
David's hysterical. He'll just, yeah.
What did he laugh at with E-Rock before?
I don't know.
Zero at the line to him or something?
Yeah.
Hey, I'll see you guys later.
He threw in a little E-Rock,
later,
a little crack at E-Rock, too. Pretty good. Where you going, Rich? What are you doing? Your teeth?
Big goodbye. Scram.
Are you doing your teeth?
Yeah, I'm going to do my teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Are you going to, we're going to videotape you doing some of your comedy without teeth?
If I remember. Yeah, I'll do some comedy without teeth.
Good.
All right.
Good luck.
Listen, I'll see you guys in
Good luck to you, buddy.
Thanks for
All right.
joining me
Good luck.
weekend.
Good luck, Voss.
Come back.
What is this guy? You're not allowed to talk to me.
David's hysterical. Good luck, Voss.
I know.
Why? David's right. David fucking is wishing Voss good luck. Right or
Thank
wrong?
you.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You wouldn't have good luck if it wasn't for my David.
We love David. David's a
Yes.
good boy.
David's a good egg.
The JJ is all right.
David is fucking. David's a mensch.
All right. David, why don't you
Ooh.
get up and leave?
Just fall slamming the door.
Become an intern again.
All right.
Good job,
There he
David.
goes.
Good job today, David. Yeah.
You feel satisfied with your performance?
Definitely.
Were there any parts that you wished for better?
I don't know. Not today.
Yeah, you have that handwriting analysis. It was pretty good, huh? Spot on.
Yeah, she was perfect. She got it right
You're
on.
Very
Yep.
good.
Did they think you were slow when you were a kid?
They thought so.
Aww.
They thought so, yeah.
But they know you're not now, right?
They know. They know.
All right, David.
Filled our quota of certain jokes, which was good.
There's some good ones in there.
Our daily quota of horrific jokes.
Big sloppy period was great. All right, David. Okay, David.
Jesus
Thank you.
All right, David.
Horrible. Just awful
There goes
people.
David.
It's just perfect
And it's
as a joke.
It's completely unnecessary.
Of course it is.
On a daily
It's
basis.
brutal for no reason.
Oh God.